a whole lot better in my time after YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's funny you even bringing that up. Yeah, because the last time, well, the last video I just did, just talking about collecting just in general, and I've noticed that a lot of people have started. I think what it is that, I guess in my opinion, as far as collecting goes, I see that people kind of have reached their peak of collecting, and now they're going down. It's like you reach the top of the mountain as far as in your mind, as far as what you wanted to collect. Not necessarily collecting everything that you wanted, because there's tons of other things that I did want to collect. But I do notice that either people are running out of space, or they've reached the point of where I've reached at, or they just made, they may have reached a turning point in their collecting. So I'm kind of in all of those places. I was running out of space for collecting because we moved to a different place, and then as far as the collecting go, I was just like, the carts and stuff like that, I was starting to get to a point where I was like, okay, some of these carts are not working out. I'm spending a great deal of money on this stuff. I've had to buy some games several times, and it just wasn't working out. So yeah, there's been some change in my idea to collect. I mean, I say more power to you if you want to still collect and you got space. And like when I watch Casey the Game Nerd, this dude, his whole house is almost filled up with video games, and it's like, I mean, if that's what you want to do and your spouse is cool, then do what you do, man.
Yeah, like, I think...
So what's your thoughts on it?
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I think that, back in 2015, when I got into the game, seriously, doing YouTube and stuff, I knew a lot of people who were just collecting constantly, and I try to message those people now, and, I can't even get a hold of them anymore. So I think a lot of people just got into it because they thought it was cool, and they realized this is just not for
Yeah,
me.
yeah, there was. You know what? You were right. You're right about that. There was definitely a little bit of a trend going on, and people have a tendency to gravitate towards trends. And I'm not really in that lane of trends. I don't really like trends. Um, Now, I think when I did start YouTube, I kind of got into that mindset just because I thought that was the thing to do. I'm talking about video games, and really honestly, in my own head, it was just something that was interesting. I was like, oh, I can go back and get games that I had previously in my childhood, my teen years, and on into the bridge of my adulthood. And I was like, and these are games that I cherished at one point or another, and they hold some sort of memory for me. So yeah, it was like a light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, wow, I can go back and collect these things. Like when I started out, I went and grabbed the Nintendo and then Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, and I did that like in a matter of like a month. I already had those systems that quick, and then the thing was when I got some of those systems, I already had a bunch of games with them that came like a package deal. Like when I got the Nintendo or the Super Nintendo, I had about 9 games, and they were like some of the classic titles. I had Mario Kart, Super Mario World, Super Mario All Stars, Power Rangers, Animaniacs. I had some pretty good ones in there. Pretty pricey ones in there too. And then when I got the Sega Genesis, I already had 25 games with it. And then when I got the Nintendo, I only had a few games with it when it came packaged together, like 2 or 3. But I was already running out, and I knew I was going to get those systems, so I ran out and I bought games for those things. And not to mention on top, when I first started my YouTube channel, I already had about probably about 60 games total, and that was between my PS3 and my 360, because I had just barely bought my 360. I got the Slim, so I already had 60 games. Probably by the end of my first year, I probably had about 200 games, and the ball just started rolling from there, and it was more of, really in the beginning I was just doing the grab and purchase type thing, and I was just buying games to get them. I was glad to get deals. I was glad to add new games to my collection. So it just became my new hobby, but it was becoming expensive, and I think that's the thing too. Over the last 3 years, probably about 2.5 to 3 years, I started to slow down with the games I was buying, and I went through my first purge. And my first purge of my games was a couple years ago. I probably purged more than 100 something games. And then I did another purge. I've done 3 purges since then. And I just started to make an assessment about the games I was collecting, quantity versus quality, and just looking at what I realistically want to keep in my collection, games that I say to myself, I'm going to go back and collect. But yeah, just circle back to what you were saying. I think it was a trend when I came to YouTube in 2012, because April will be 5 years. When I came to YouTube in 2012, there was definitely a trend going on. It was more of people talking about what they picked up this week. If you notice, those videos are still there, like circulating through the YouTube world or whatever, but it's not as big. People are starting to realize that that's not the only thing that people want to hear on your channel. I realized that about 2 years ago. So that's why my channel started to become more of a topic channel, and a platform that allowed me to do that. But yeah, the collecting, I think it's kind of, at this point, it's kind of to each his own. And like I said, I see a lot of the dudes that's been in it for a long time, they're starting to come to this realization: how long do I want to do this? Because there's nobody set any guidelines, nobody set any parameters. We've never said, hey, after 5 years you need to stop collecting, or after 10 years, or when you reach 1,000 games you need to stop collecting, or or when you complete a set, that should be the end of it for collecting. Nobody's never set any rules. It's free balling. It's all over the place. But I do notice every now and then, when you let people know that you're going to stop doing something, you get a little bit of backlash, like a little bit of hesitance from folks, like, oh my God, I can't believe this is what you're doing. Now you're stopping. You're not. And when I told people I'm stopped collecting, that doesn't mean I'm not going to stop buying games. But I didn't go into full circulation about the video and just say everything, because you never get to say all the stuff you want to say anyway. When I said I'll stop collecting, that doesn't mean I'm stop buying games. I'm just not going to be opposed to the idea of trading in my games. See, back then, when I had games, I was holding on to those titles. I wasn't trading them in at all. Yeah, I was keeping them. And I think I got to a point where I was really, really close to 1,000 games. But at the same time, it was overlapping. I was starting to put games in front of games, put games in the closet. And even when I look back on that, I enjoyed it. I loved it. But realistically, I also started thinking, okay, what am I going to do with all this shit? This is a lot of games. And I think I learned my biggest lesson when I moved for the first time after collecting, when I started collecting. Because like I said, I didn't start collecting until 2012. And when I moved for the first time in 2014, that's when I started looking at it like, whoa. Because it took me hours to take everything down and put everything back up. Yeah, it was a wreck. Man, what else were you thinking on the collecting side of things?
Well, I was going to say, I think it's fun to make a whole room and design all the sets and stuff, because if you have to move, or if you just want to move stuff around in the room, like, I find it really, really fun to just try and put certain posters a certain way to, like, represent a certain idea. Like, this is the Ninja Gaiden corner, and this is where all the NES games are, and then you have figures of all the Mega Man guys on top, and just personalize it to what's unique to you. I think that's really cool, and I don't think I'll ever get tired of that. But I think a lot of the people who get into collecting stay in it more so because they have a shopping addiction than they actually want to play games. I'm someone who has never had like a whole lot of money, so I always spend it on
Yeah.
games that I really want to play, and I've never been able to have that tipping point where I start feeling disgusted with collecting because, oh my god, I just bought all these games that I don't want to play because it feels good when I buy them. I've never had that experience. So for me, I'm not
Yeah.
cynical about it like other people are. And I think that's good. That's a healthy thing for me, that I don't have too much money to go out and spend on these things. I'm just buying the ones I really, really want. Um, and honestly, I think it's the people who got in through the trends who end up just getting kind of addicted to hoarding this stuff. And like then they start to realize, yeah, this is just too much, and then they don't ever come back.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like what you're saying about putting your stuff. And see, that's what I did start doing with the collecting, is putting games in sections and stuff like that. Like you're saying, like my Mega Man stuff over here, and my, my Ninja Gaiden stuff over here, or my God of War stuff over here, or whatever. Um, yeah, and you know what? The addiction bug was starting to bite, and that's where I had to get a grip on things for me, and personally, I started seeing it because I know in one given year, I can't even tell you how many thousands of dollars that I spent. Like,
Mm.
I know I had pre-ordered. Yeah, Wu is right. I know I think it was like 2011, I probably pre-ordered more than 20 games, and I followed through with those pre-orders.
Yeah.
And that was just pre-order, and yeah, that was just pre-orders alone. I remember like pre-ordering God of War, and I spent $120 on that because I got the God of War 3. I remember getting the collection, the collector's edition or whatever. I pre-ordered Dante's Inferno. I pre-ordered Heavy Rain. I pre-ordered a lot of games that year. I can't even. I know it was at least 20 games that I pre-ordered, and then in between that, those were current gen at that time. That in between that, I was buying retro stuff too. That was either 2010, 2011, I think it was. I can't remember, but that was when the collecting was just starting for me. Like I was already collecting a little bit before my channel, but I was like really starting to go full throttle once the channel had got off, and I liked how it felt. But yeah, I think around 2014 for me, I started seeing that okay, I was spending I was spending a lot of money on a weekly base. And I was like, okay, this is getting crazy because I know I was spending several hundred, I think at least a week, or not a week, a month, a couple $100, I think it was a month, probably even more, because it would just vary. So yeah, I think when I look at people's collection, I look at it just as a symbolic thing for them. Like this symbolizes some sort of meaning for you, like it felt good for you, like you love this, you enjoyed this is what you were passionate about, and these were all the reasons. But I think at a point you have to ask yourself, like you even said, you have to ask yourself, man, because I know I did that numerous times where I bought a game and then I never played it. I can't even tell you how many games. If I was just to estimate, I'd probably say about 100 games or more that I had. I wasn't necessarily disgusted with it. There was a smaller percentage on the side of being disgusted with it. Like, oh man, I can't believe I spent that money. But I know I probably had more than 100 games that never got played. And they just sat there, not even got touched. The only time it got touched was when I got it from the store and it went on the shelf. And that's what really started to stand out to me. And that's when I started to really dwindle down some stuff. And, I was like, because my PS2 has always been the hardest collection to dwindle down, because I actually do play a lot of those games out of there, because most of that stuff, like back then, I had probably more than 100 PS2 games. So a big percentage of the library I'm familiarized with, like probably about 20-30%, because I know there's like 3,000 games or more. It's a ridiculous number on the PS2 side, but there was a big percentage of games that I played out of that lot. But yeah, man, it was just funny to me to sit back and watch other people's videos and see them kind of start to go through that whole, wow, this was fun doing this, and I love doing this, and I love playing video games, but now it's kind of reaching that pivotal point. Like when you reach that pivotal point, you ask yourself, do I want to keep doing it? And like you said, I think to a degree you're right about this too, is that some people feel obligated now. Like now you're stuck in this thing. Like I said, when I do see people that's trying to go for complete sets, that means you're buying a bunch of extras too. You're buying a bunch of fillers, and I don't know, man. I just don't see the need to do it. Like, I'm still gonna talk about video games because I love video games, but whether it's old school or new school, it doesn't matter. But yeah, man, I don't know. I just I look at it and I see it and I'm like, woo. I don't know, man.
Yeah, like there's a certain appreciation I have for having a lot of games and just a lot of, collection stuff and structuring it in an interesting way and personalizing it. But I think the moment you start buying games that you're not going to play is the moment you sit there and assess that, because I can say I've played absolutely every game I've bought. Um, the day I got it too, even if I got 3 games in the same day, which is very rare for me, but um, even if I got 3 games in the same day, I would play all of them, and I would try to beat all of them
Yeah,
so I could get my money's worth, because I can't go out and buy a bunch of games, so obviously I'm going to try to put as much time as I possibly can into getting better at it. Like, I did this whole video called "Can Money Make Harder Games More Appealing?" Where basically the question
yeah,
that I posited was, um, if I play a harder game, and I have all these other games that I've already bought, what's keeping me playing that game if I have all these other easier games? And because I don't have a lot of money, I sit there and I'm like, well, this game's hard, but it's the only thing I have, and then I end up getting more out of that one specific game, and I grow to have a bigger appreciation for it and more of a connection with it. That's what happened to me with Ninja Gaiden. Like, I did this whole video
yeah,
talking about how it kind of taught me how to work hard to get good things at a very young age. So
yeah.
yeah, if you're not buying tons and tons of games, you can get special experiences like that, no matter how old you are, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, and that sounds like the old school experience, because, we had limited funds. And so, yeah, you did ball out on that one game, because regardless if it was difficult, and that's the good and bad thing with having access to money. You know, the good is now I can go out and buy games. The bad is now I can go out and buy games, and so it's like you have to just be able to, yeah, it's a double-edged sword. It's a killer, because I can go buy games like I see, and then the digital age is just even worse, because You could just click a button now in the game and let the game be $5. That's even worse. You got the PSN sales, you got the you got the gold sale, you got all this, you got Steam sale, and Steam is notorious for selling you tons and tons of games at discounted prices and stuff like that. So for 1 week, it's just like when a woman walks through a store and she sees the word sale. She's not compelled to walk away. She's more compelled to be under the hypnosis of the idea of a sale. Like, I got a bargain, I got a deal. Well, in this perspective of it all, or I guess, well, when you look at it from a certain perspective, you understand that, man, I just got a deal. I got a sale on a game, and now I can play it at a certain, I can go ahead and ball out. Because, like, right now, I've been trying my best to play Horizon Zero Dawn. It's a really good game. I'm so distracted because at the same time, I went and got Dino Crisis on the PS1 to play on my Vita and on my PS3 or whatever. But I can play that anytime I want to now because it's on the go. And then I just finished up Beyond Good and Evil HD on my Xbox One because I love the game so much. I done beat it like 5 times. But sometimes when I get in that mode of playing it, I just will drop everything and just solely focus on it. So I wanted to get all the achievements on it, and I did. And now I'm trying to bounce back into Horizon Zero Dawn, and then I've been ordering, while I'm in the midst of playing these games, I'm ordering other games. So what I do now, this is to discipline myself. If it's an expensive game, I try to trade in some games so then that way I don't have to pay for the game. Ultimately have to pay anything for it. If it's games that I'm just buying in general, I try to keep it under $10 a piece. And if the max is, I try to only spend like $20. And then that way I'm not going overboard with it. Because I used to go 40, 50 like it ain't nothing. Oh, okay, well, I can do that. That's nothing. So, and then there may be a couple weeks where I skip. I'll just stop myself and just say, you know what, I bought enough for this month. Let's cut it out. We don't need nothing else. It's like water. And even when I walk through the store, this was an old thing that I used to do. I would hold the game and walk around and be like, why do I want this game? Because it's almost like you have to convince yourself with the idea of even wanting the game. Like, why am I getting this game? Why do I want this game? So let me ask you, when did you start collecting? Did you just start collecting recently, or you started collecting after your channel?
I started. It was a few years, maybe 4 years before my channel, 4 or 5, at a very, very young age.
Yeah.
Let's see, when was it? I know I got my Nintendo 64 as my first like real retro system at a pawn shop for $20 with 10 games, 2 controllers or whatever. And I played that a lot. I got Turok after a little bit. And then like a year later, I got my Genesis, and it just kind of spiraled from there. And now, I got the NES and everything, the Dreamcast. So, I've bought in a lot of stuff since then, but it's, over the course of like 6 or 7 years. So, it's not very much in comparison to other people, but that's because I don't have very much money. And so it's allowed me to experience the games more thoroughly. And before that, we always had video games in the house, even before I knew about the whole retro collecting gig. My dad is a huge fan of just the Xbox stuff, and before that, he was big into Sega stuff, so there was a bunch of that around the house.
That's
I've always
interesting that your dad collects.
He doesn't really collect anymore. Besides like getting an Xbox 360 game here and there, like he's really into the 360, but he doesn't buy that stuff anywhere near as much as he used to. Because there was a period in 2014 where, you know, he'd go to Hastings or GameStop and he'd just pick up like 3 games because they were $5 or whatever. Regardless of quality, he'd just pick them up and put them on the shelf and maybe play one of them. But a lot of those games he hasn't even played yet to this day.
See, and that's the thing I'm talking about right there, and that's the part that makes it harder too, is that now that we've moved on to the next gen, you know, with the PS4 and Xbox One, and I guess we can include the Nintendo Switch in this conversation. Now all that other stuff is dirt cheap, and you know, and then you got titles that you probably missed out on. You know, like the PS3 stuff and 360 stuff, you know, they had their own embodiment of exclusives. And you can go to pawn shops, you can go to secondhand stores, mom and pop shops, whatever. You can get those games under $5. Now, the condition of the case might be rattled and, you know, worn out or whatever. But like you're saying, he's getting those games at $5 a piece. And sometimes some places will give you all three of them for $5. If you talk, you talk a little bit of game to them, you can get what you want, because they're just trying to conserve some space. And it's like, if you already are consuming some space, so if you already got all these games in there, what you know are common titles, and somebody asked me, somebody asked me a really interesting question, and it just brings things in perspective. Another thing that brings things in perspective. They said, when you sold off those retro games, did you get your money back? I told him, he said, you'll never get your money back, not the amount that you spent for them. I said, now, if you trade off maybe 5-10 games, that's one thing, but when you're trading off 50 to 100 games, some of those games cost you like $5 a piece. You're not getting all your money back. You can kiss that goodbye. That thought's might well just let that go out the door. It's not going to happen. But I was going to ask you too, what's one game that you're truly seeking after that you haven't got in your collection?
I really don't know. I haven't been doing much collecting because recently I haven't been playing very many video games. I've just been watching a lot of anime. So usually when I play a game, it's like once a week, and it's just, I guess I'll pull out this NES game and I'll play it here because, it's a good time, or, this is a fun arcade game on Steam, I'll pull this out and I'll play it. But other than that, I really have not been playing very many video games, not anywhere near as much as I used to. Definitely not buying very many of them.
Yeah, and I go through those periods, man. Like this week, was this Thursday? I go through those periods, man, where like twice this week I haven't played. And then I think I played yesterday. Like I played Horizon Zero Dawn for the first time yesterday in over a week. Like a week. Yeah, about a week. Because I was consumed with Beyond Good and Evil. And I really wasn't going hard with that one either. I was just consumed with life, and it's like when you do go through that period where you just all you want to do is play, it's good and it's bad, because then it makes that's all you want to do is play those games, and then you go through a period where you're like, maybe once this week, maybe, like you said, and I'm the type of person too. I get occupied with other TV shows. I might go binge watch a bunch of other shows. So that takes over and that consumes things, because we only got 24 hours a day anyway. So you don't really have all this time. I work from 8:30 to 5 o'clock. So from that time in the morning till like 5:30, almost 6 o'clock, I'm at work or I'm driving back home, and then I'm going through my down period from work. So not my immediate thought is to jump on a video game. My immediate thought is to chill out, watch some YouTube videos or something like that, or catch up on a show or whatever. But yeah, the gaming side of me fluctuates. I can get I can get totally consumed and immersed in the video game. Like I got totally consumed with Final Fantasy 15. I played it to its completion. And I put in like 60, 70 hours, something like that, something crazy. And uh, Resident Evil, at first it was kind of shaky, it's like finding my own place within. I think for me, playing a video game that I know is going to be a lot of hours, because I've really been trying to play a lot of these games that are kind of short, kind of get that instant gratification and move on to the next title, the ones that are like 5 to 8 hours. And it's so funny because last gen we used to get so pissy about it, like, ooh, this game is too short, it's only 8 hours. And then the developers heard us, and so they started bringing out games that are 25 to 30 hours to 40 to 50 hours. And so now you got too many long games. Like I've had The Witcher 3 since last year some time ago. It was given to me by my nephew, and I haven't had a chance to play that. I got Doom, still haven't had a chance to play. I haven't even had a chance to fire it up, like even put it in the deck. I mean, I got that Tomb Raider, the one that finally came to the PS4, the anniversary version, and I haven't even had a chance. I think I played a little bit of it, and I did a live stream, and that was it. And that was the last time I played it, and that was months ago. So I got a lot of titles, and I got titles that are sealed. But like I said, most of those titles, they only end up costing me like $10 or $15, and that was it. And I was like, I ordered it. I had plans on jumping into it, but I'm like, man, I gotta knock these out. So so how many games you got? As far as like a total amount.
I don't actually pay attention to the numbers. I'm more interested in, okay, what game do I want to play right now, or what game do I want to get right now. I don't actually pay attention to how many I get, because that stuff isn't very important to me.
Mhm.
Like
yeah, I got you. See, I did a spreadsheet, but go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, I see all these channels, and they get on there and they're like, I've got 10,000 games. Look at me, I'm the best guy ever. And it gets annoying to me, because I'm like, well, how many of those did you play? And more importantly,
Right.
why does your enjoyment of all these games matter to me? Just throwing out arbitrary numbers, yeah, that's neat that you spent all that money,
Yeah.
but like, if you're not giving your opinions on the game and presenting them in an interesting way, why do I care? And so I usually click out of those videos really
Right.
quickly, and in
Yeah.
general, I'm more of I like to play stuff and hear about interesting thoughts about what people had when they played. So I kind of have a whole cynicism towards that numbers thing.
Yeah, you know what? That's interesting that you say that, because there's times where I get agitated with it myself, because like you said, I'd rather sit down and hear you talk, because that's one thing. I don't think I can even ever say that I heard Happy Console Gamer ever say how many games he has. He talks about his collection, but he's kind of like a late kind of guy like me, in a sense that he like collecting. I'll talk about it every now and then, but yeah, I totally get what you're saying. The ego side of it, the braggadocious side of it, it is kind of annoying. You get annoyed with it. It's like, okay, so you're just really buying games at this point. You're not, because there's no way in hell you didn't set up and bought. If you just added new games to your collection, you trying to tell me you don't went through all 50 of those games, and I'm not talking about just firing it up just to see if it works. That's a totally different discussion. But I think the big interesting thing that Immortal John brought up, John Hancock, and he definitely has a crazy collection. He got several complete collections, which he says he's going to donate it to. I think he said he wants to give it to a museum, because he's got a lot of rare stuff. And the point of that, I can see that. But yeah, there's a kind of a dark side to the collecting. How people, I guess, people feel like my definition of collecting is collecting, and it's like, well, no, not really, because it's almost an opinionated statement to make when you say you're a collector. That's why I don't even consider myself a collector anymore, because that's what I used to do. Like, I used to go out of my way to collect games and add games and keep games in my collection, but now I'm not too partial to letting go of those games. Like, I sold off some really pricey stuff, and people were like, "What? You got rid of Mega Man this and Mega?" I say, "Yeah, I wasn't that I wasn't that into it anyway. I wasn't playing it, and that's the part that is free, because you have to separate the two. Otherwise, you will become like a hoarder, almost to a certain degree. But anyway, so you wanted to ask me about you asked about the life after YouTube thing. What
Oh,
question did you have
before
on that?
before we actually get into that, I was had something to say about the whole sales culture and the digital thing. Um, like with Steam specifically, whenever I buy a game on there, I never really feel any gratification from getting a sale because I don't have anything physical to hold in my hand. The only time I get any kind of gratification is when I actually play it. Um, but I think the
Yeah,
difference between that and when I go out to a store, like when I go out to a store, I get to pick it up off the shelf around surrounded by all these other games. I get to walk up to the register and maybe, strike up a conversation with whoever's in front, you know. Um, and it's such a more human and natural feeling thing because you're actually holding the game there, and when I bring it home and I play it for however many hours and I put it on the shelf, it just kind of feels right, like this is how you're supposed to do it. But when I play a game on Steam, it just feels like I'm emulating stuff, and that's a whole other can of worms.
yeah.
Um, but but like with with most Steam games, I'll usually pirate them, and if I like it, I'll buy it on Steam to support the creator. Um, Especially if it's like a more
Yeah.
obscure indie game or something. Um, I'll be like, here's $5 because I like your game. I know what it's like to be a struggling artist, so here you go. But if I'm gonna
You
get
sound like me with music.
Oh yeah, I'm exactly the same with music.
I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me go ahead and put some. Yeah, let me go ahead and put some. Yeah, let me go ahead and buy that. It's like, let me go ahead and give you the money. But it's changed. It's so weird. But yeah, I walk through those. I walk through those same feelings. Like, I still like going to the store. I like going to the secondhand stores. I still enjoy that experience. That for me hasn't died or gone away. That's still, like you said, that is gratifying. It is, it's like, oh, I caught you guys on a buy one get one free day or whatever, or I caught you on a 50% off day, and you guys happen to have some titles that I want in the collection, and blah 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 blah, stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting just to think about all of that stuff, I guess, in perspective, how everyone views collecting differently. And
Hmm.
but yeah, the digital side, I like it as far as it being cheap, but I still at times, like, even with the PS4 stuff, like, I'll say at this point, more than half of my PS4 collection is digital. And what I take away from that is that I I'm glad that they changed the way it's the layout on your dashboard, on your first screen, on your opening screen, because now I'm able to see my games every time I go on there. They created these folders, and the folders just automatically drop down and show everything. because some of my digital stuff was getting lost in the shuffle because it was on a whole nother screen and you would have to open up that screen and you don't always go there to open that screen up. And so there's games in there that I would forget that I have. I was like, wow, I forgot I had that game, and that's just a whole nother thing. But yeah, man, I like I miss it, and I think we're turning a corner. Unfortunately, I think they're still going to have physical representation, but I don't know if it's just going to be, like right now, it's just stripped down to the box and no manuals and no inserts or none of that other stuff anymore. So it's different. It's different. It's a different feeling for sure. I
Well,
um
to interject
I
on
wish
that, actually,
what's that?
oh, I was gonna say, like, I think the reason why they're changing it to all digital is because the kids who are growing up with games now have more and more digital stuff. They're kind of they kind of tested the waters with Xbox 360 and stuff, and then later in that lifespan, it just became way more important to do digital stuff. And obviously, on computer, they've been doing it longer. So the kids who grow up with these games, they're going to think it's just normal to have digital games. You buy a game on the App Store, and then it's instantly there. Whereas, I know you especially, and I was kind of born into this, was to go out and you buy a game. I always went out with my dad and listened to him talk to the people there, and I was surrounded by all these games, and it was kind of romanticized to have this experience, and it's kind of nostalgic now. And so, for people who grew up with physical stuff, it just feels right because that's what you've always done. But with with the kids who are growing up now, they're um, they're they don't really care because they've always had digital stuff.
True. So true. Yeah. But
And
yeah,
that's
man,
why it's gonna.
that's and I noticed that there is a gap. There is definitely a gap with the ones that like you said, they grew up that way. And I always test people out. I ask them certain questions about which, like the people that do actually like GTA, because not everybody likes GTA games. I asked them which games did which GTA game is your favorite. And some people say San Andreas, some people say Vice City, and that lets me know what era you grew up in. It's like, oh, you grew up in the '90s. I say you're a '90s kid. When the people turn, because not everybody likes San Andreas that's from the '90s, but some people, a big percentage of the people that I've talked to, they like San Andreas. And I'm like, you must grew up in the '90s, and I said because that was your time, that was your era, that was the music, you know, that was the culture and all that other stuff. So you immediately adapt to that, you acclimate that setup, that whole setup there. It's the same thing for me. I'm really a '70s baby, but I grew up in the '80s because I was born in '79, hence the word Lifespiller79. But I grew up in the '80s, and I love the '80s and the culture and the music and everything in it. So that's why Vice City is like my favorite out of GTA, out of the series. But yeah, I do see a turn happening, and at times I'm like, man, I don't know about all this digital stuff. I'm just leery. I'm real leery about the digital just because I've seen games come out, and now all you have is if you know, like even the games are just online only. Those servers are only going to be up for so long, and I think we're all going to turn that corner where we're like, look, like Mag. You remember the game Mag, that online multiplayer game?
Yeah.
They eventually shut the servers down. So now all these people just got physical copies. That's it. You just got a physical copy that you can't play because there's no servers to support it.
Yeah,
So you
like
just go, you got nothing. Yeah, and
with
then
the computer, there are fan servers that you can go on and you can still play the game, but or well, maybe not Mag. I don't think there's much fan support for that game, but there are certain games where the fans will go out. I don't think I don't think they're gonna do that with the PS3 and the Xbox 360. You know, it's really hard to hack those systems. As someone who's, you know,
Yeah.
read tons and tons of stuff about JTagging, um, in Xbox 360, it has to have like the right specific update in order to be JTagged, and if it's anywhere past that, you can't. And so, you
Yeah.
know, there's really no way to hack it to where you can put your own fan software on there. And even the people that do, it's like that's such a small niche. And are they really going to keep up these servers for these multi-million-dollar projects? I really don't think so. Um, and then you have smaller systems like the Dreamcast, who now there are servers for like Phantasy Star Online or that one Tetris
Yeah.
game. Like you can actually go back and play it online, but that's because it's easier to manage, and the Dreamcast is easier to develop for, and it's an older system, etc., etc. So, you know,
Right.
it's been done before, but I think as times change and things become more complex and cost more money, you're just going to end up with a lot of dead games that you can't do anything with. Well, that's a wasted $60.
Yeah. And then I see some of these games that they're starting to say they're not available anymore. You know, like if you don't have the copy, they won't even let you go back and download. They say you can always go back and download these games, and that's what they tell you. But that's just a thing that they tell you anyway. Some of these games you can't go back and download them. They're not even available on the store anymore. So they're not going to always be there forever. And I think we buy this idea just because that's what we're told, and it's nice and it's safe and it's convenient. It sounds good, so we believe it. We believe it. We believe it. And I tell these people all the time, I said, man, I'm real leery about the idea of digital stuff, just because I feel like one day these servers are not going to be available, and you're not going to be able to download these games, because you don't go and download all your games that you have just because it's going to take up space, and the storage space is less on this newer systems because they're bigger. Like most of these new games, they're average around 40 to 50 gigs. And think about it on a 500 gig. When you're starting out with a 500 gig, I know they got the new update that just came out not too long ago where you can use an external, but that was just up until now. But you would have to sit there and go, okay, well, let me go download all these games and stuff like that. So you're gonna be spending half a day just letting your PlayStation run and download. And depending on your speed, it could be a quick thing, or it could be a slow thing, or it can be an all day thing. But I still have a love and appreciation for those who do collect. I mean, I respect you if you want to keep collecting. I just know that I myself, I want to make it easier. The next time I move, I want it to be a quick move on my behalf and not a long, tedious process where it's just like, man, because I needed a really big box in order to move like all my stuff. It was just ridiculous. I was like, okay, it's time to start cutting down on some of this stuff. And some of the stuff I told myself I couldn't part with it, and so I didn't. But a big percentage of the stuff I did, like a really big percentage of it, I was like, okay, this can go. No, no biggie.
Yeah, and I think after a while, the whole culture of, I picked up this game, I picked up this game, or, look at this price, how do I barter for this or whatever. I think the whole culture around that is kind of exciting when you first start, but it gets really boring afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people I watch, they don't even. I mean, they may talk about it here and there, but I think they started to see where the tide was rolling, and they started to see because like I'll hear people talk about maybe one game, and they may just go on about that game, and just let you know, oh, I've been playing this game, and this is the experience that I got out of this game. But for the most part, you've seen this big change. Like with being on YouTube this many years, I've seen people kind of make a change, and even another guy that I follow on YouTube, T-Rex Space Station, he was just talking about his gameplay kind of dying out, like just sitting there doing gameplay, like not really doing any commentary, but just doing gameplay. Has that kind of died out for a lot of people? Like, is it boring to you to just sit there and watch somebody play a video game, or do you still get some sort of enjoyment out of it? And I myself, I said I would rather hear somebody talk, but also maybe wrap it in with a topic or something like that at the same time. I can't just sit there and watch gameplay unless you give me some sort of food for thought or whatever. But other than that, you'll lose my interest, and I'll just click off of the video and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, there's this YouTuber I follow named T2D Gamer. He's been on YouTube since 2007. He's been making these gameplay videos for that long. Um,
Dang.
and you know, he still uploads every once in a while, but from the time I talked to him, he said, yeah, you know, I got a job and everything, so the only times I can put up a lot of stuff is when I'm in between jobs. And he does some reviews here and there, but the gameplay videos that he puts up have like really detailed descriptions, and the description is basically like a blog post about the game. So before I watch the gameplay, I always go down the description and read like the flaws of this game, or why this game is amazing, or why I'm playing this game today, or whatever he has to say about it. And I like his writing, so you know, I'll always click on a gameplay video from T2D Gamer whenever he uploads one, because he's been doing this for like, you know, 9 years now, so obviously he's pretty invested in it, even as off and on as he does it. So, you know, I read these basically blog posts in his descriptions, and when I go up to the actual video, and I'm watching the gameplay, it's like I have context, I have things to think about. It's like, well, this aspect of the game works really well because of this and this, and when I'm sitting there watching the gameplay after having read that, I can think about, oh yeah, that's what he's talking about. So it's interesting how he makes that work. You know, he keeps gameplay videos alive pretty much, because he's the only one I subscribe to who actually does that kind of content. And I think very, very few people actually care about, you know, just watching it. And he's always been very passionate about that side of YouTube. Because when he came in, Let's Plays were starting to become a thing, and he absolutely hated it. You know, he just wanted to look at the game without some kid screaming over it. So he's been staying true to this ideology ever since then, and I really appreciate what he's doing.
Yeah, and that you know, that's the thing. Staying, you know, it sounds like a rare situation. You know, those are like the gems of YouTube that, you know, they're staying passionate. You know, they're staying persistent and passionate about what they're doing, and that's the hard. It really is a hard thing, because you have to just keep it all. I mean, I keep saying the word perspective, but you have to keep it all in perspective, because it can get away from you. You can get pulled away with the idea of thinking, I gotta cater my stuff towards what the people want versus what I want, and then have people come and like what I want. That for me was always, it was a struggle at first, but then when I saw the audience start to come towards my direction of what I like to talk about, it was liberating, because I was like, oh, okay, well, I don't really have to. Part of my brain would tell me I had to do this in order to get these views and stuff like that, but then I got to a point where I was like, well, I'm just going to do what I like, you know, and if nobody likes it, I'll just keep doing what I like. Eventually, you'll build a fan base. People out there is going to cater towards what you like. It's just a matter of how long will it take to get that done. That's the challenge. Now, yeah, and I like when people put stuff in their description because not a lot of people do that. They don't. I used to put a lot of stuff in my description, but then I got to the two liners because I noticed that people wasn't really reading it because it's like, okay, had you read that, you would have kind of got an idea what the video is going to be about. And, you know, I even used to tell people in the beginning, and, you know, I still do that sometimes and say what the video is going to be about. You know, the title says what the video is going to be about. People still, somehow I don't know, it's so weird trying to translate that to folks.
Yeah, like usually what I do when I do like vlog kind of content, because most of my videos are scripted now. I don't do a lot of unscripted stuff unless it's on one of my other channels, but whenever I do one of those like unscripted rambly videos, I usually start out with a statement like, video games aren't as good as they used to be, and then the rest of the video is just me explaining my point and my reasoning. I think that's fine. Like, I don't think most people come to videos just for, you know, one opinion and then they don't want any substance, you know? Or at least not the kind of audience I want to
Yeah.
get, but...
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah, they definitely you know, after a while people don't watch enough of your videos, they already realize who you are and what you represent and how you're going to approach certain subjects, and they either appreciate it or they don't, you know. And so it's interesting to me. That's why I was like, I knew that I was going to, you know, when I made the choice to start the channel, when I started it, I was just starting it out of just pure love of doing video games. And I said somewhere along the lines, I just need to get back to that, you know, just and being able to talk about it. And really, the channel is just a creative outlet. So, so even if it's just far in between when I do a next one, and I do like those videos where they, you know, they divulge and go like deep into discussion. Like I like I like Pam or whatever, Can I Be Tamed, because she she not only she not only gives you an idea through her lens of how she sees the game, but then she explains. She goes and records the whole time that she's playing the video game. So then she's able to just rip everything down and break it down and say, okay, this is why I really. Even if it's something like, even when I'm looking at the game and I already know I myself I'm not interested in it, I'm probably not going to like it. I'm still want to hear what she has to say until completion, because I want to know why was it so good or why this game was so bad. Because we've had games where she's loved it and I hated it, and she's hated it and I loved it. And you know, and and what I do respect with her content, she's not afraid to say she didn't like a game that was popularized. You know, like a lot of people loved it and they cultivated to it, and it was just like, oh my God, this is the greatest game, and I can't believe you don't like it. You know, so it just happens. There's certain games that I end up liking that people just cannot stand, and I don't, you know, with the channel, it's given me a whole new way of just looking at everything. I don't just look at games through my lens. I look at through everybody and see why they didn't like it or they did like it, or, you know, I like a full understanding, and this is just really how I think anyway. So yeah, I just try to figure out why they loved it or hated it or enjoyed it or didn't like it or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, my favorite kinds of YouTube channels and my favorite kinds of videos are ones where, you know, whoever's speaking has completely different tastes than mine. You know, where they have a completely different perspective than mine, they have, you know, different favorites. Those are the most interesting channels for me because it's different than what I hear from my own constant monologue, you know. And I
Yeah,
get to really enrich my own perspective because I've had this other one, you know. And I guess the most interesting thing to me is just hearing things I wouldn't have thought of, or interesting ideas or opinions that I couldn't have deduced. you know, from my own playtime. Those are my favorite videos. You know, one of my
Yeah.
favorite YouTubers, Matthew Matosis, he did this great video on BioShock Infinite, which is a game I love, but he just broke down every reason why it's a terrible game to him and it doesn't appeal to them. And that's one of my favorite videos because the opinion is so different than mine and it makes it really interesting.
Yeah, that. You know what? That's the funny thing. I'm the same way. I can definitely appreciate this one guy who's not even on YouTube anymore. He comments, and, he does his own post somewhere else. But he went through the whole Uncharted series and just said why he didn't like those games. And I was like, wow, never thought about it like that. And I like, like you said, I like people that make me think. I don't need, and I tell the people that come to my channel all the time, I don't need you to agree with me. I just want you to understand why I liked it or didn't like it. That's it. Whatever you take away from that, that's what you take away from it. But I don't need you to like what I like. We can be cool, and you don't have to like the same shit I like. It's not. Nah, I don't work. I don't move in that kind of wavelength. It's nah. But yeah, it is interesting to see that out of some of these YouTubers, now some people are too polar, and they have to be careful about that. Like, not, just talking about the games that they didn't like all the time. It's like, okay, well, what do you like? Because I want to get a sense of what enjoyment that you get out of this genre. And it's like, come on, man, you can't say that you hate every game. Like this one guy, he tried to have a channel, and it was okay, but it was like he was always ripping into games, and it was like, okay, you're ripping into all of these games, but you're not telling us what games actually excited you and had some sort of fulfillment or some sort of gratification or whatever. You're not saying that enough. Like, you gotta have some sort of sense of balance. You can't just be like, okay. But yeah, like I tell people all the time, I hated the Call of Duty series. I in the beginning, I will say this. In the beginning with the Modern Warfare, I was like, oh, okay, this is a cool concept, blah, blah, blah. And then came the milking of the cow. They were milking the hell out of the cow, and they started trying to cash in every year. For me, I didn't like that concept because I thought about it in the big scheme of things, the big picture. This is money, billions of dollars going towards this game that comes out once a year. They're only able to do so much. It doesn't matter how large the team is. I don't care if they got 500 to 1,000 people on their team. You could be in preparation for 2 years ahead, and having this product come out 2 years later, you're still only going to be able to tweak the thing so much. And it's only going to be able to do so much to the game and blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. If it wasn't for my son, I wouldn't have no Call of Duty games except for like Modern Warfare 1 and 2. And after that, I didn't like the series anymore. I was done. I was like, okay, y'all starting to do this thing where it's coming out every year, and I'm not a big fan of multiplayer anyway, so you're already losing me in that aspect of things. So it was like, I was just becoming so annoyed because you had 20 million people going out and buying that game, 25 million people going out and buying every year. And this is like all this money, all this creative space that could have been utilized for better purposes. I'm liking that it's starting to die off, but it's a slow process. Like, I think there's only like maybe 14, 15 million copies that sold, last year so far for the Call of Duty game. But I'm like, oh, can this series just die off? Can they just kill it and come up with something new? I'm not opposed to new IPs. I'm willing to give new IPs a chance because somebody's got to step in and say, okay, we got to make a change. These games are looking too similar and sounding the same. They're looking the same. They feel the same. We can compare them to one another, and you're only getting so much more out of them. So, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The interesting thing about the Call of Duty series is that they can make them. They've found an efficient way to make them cheaper, because a lot of the time they reuse utilities and old engines and stuff, just so it doesn't have to cost as much to make the new ones. And I think that's kind of how they've gotten them out every year for such a long time, because they reuse stuff so they don't have to build everything from the ground up. And since so many people buy them, of course, they're gonna keep making more if it's cheaper to make than most a brand new game would be. And like, it's the most popular game coming out, so of course they're gonna milk it for all it's got. So yeah, I think the series is dying down. People kind of gotten tired of all of these Call of Duty games. It's nowhere near as much discussed as it used to be, or at least in my circle of friends, it's not. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think they're gonna come up with something new, and that's gonna be the big thing.
Yeah, 'cause when you got to go out of space with your game, you kind of telling us what's going on. I'm like, okay, y'all starting to reach you. And it's the same thing that happened with Assassin's Creed. Even though it was a series I once loved and enjoyed, but it got to a point too. It was popular. It was making money, and I'm understanding. I'm understanding to the degree where it's like, okay, let's get our money, but it's like, don't lose the creative side of it either. Don't lose that greatness behind it by just putting out products because people are going to go buy it. It's just like a music artist just puts music out because they know, oh, we're so loyal, we're gonna go out and buy it. And it's like, no, don't be so dumb to the idea that people actually have a mind of their own, and eventually they're going to say no. They're going to eventually move on and stop with the collecting, you know.
Hmm.
But or
Yeah.
buying your CDs, man. Because I I've I've been loyal to a lot of artists out there, and I've bought a number of CDs, and I still got CDs to this day. It's just crazy.
Yeah. One of the bands that I've been really into lately is the hip hop group Death Grips. One of the things that I really
Mm.
really like about them is that every CD is different, and every CD is trying to be a different thing than the last. And even though they're like semi-popular for an experimental hip hop band, I don't know if they're living off this stuff, but um, every album has a new gimmick or something, and you can tell they're really expressing themselves as artists. So they're not just trying to recreate like the Money Store, the most popular album. They're always trying to evolve and change, and the fans of them will pay for that, you know. So when you try to make it cynical and you're just trying to do what's popular, or to do what you did last, it becomes a detriment to the work itself, because you can't remake what you did. It's just a lower quality copy of yourself, and once a band starts doing that, that's when you give up on them.
Yeah, yeah, it's true, and that's I think you have to be willing to experiment and take a chance and do something different, and that's why I said, ooh, just circling back to what we were initially talking about, collecting is expensive, and you just learn the tricks of the trade. If you're going to continue to do this, you do it in a way that works out for you. So, with my channel kind of just being one dimensional at the time, I think the first year and a half it was just one dimensional. I was just talking about games I picked up, but then I was like, man, I got to step outside of this because this is getting expensive. And so I said, you know what? Let me just start talking about other things, topics, discussions, you know, and just coming up with blogs and stuff like that, and saying, okay, what do I want? What do I think about this sort of thing, and how do I feel about this? And even when the whole video response thing died out as far as YouTube was concerned, people kept doing it anyway. And so I did one of my first ones, and was I think it was after Michael B, the Game G, and he was talking about his top 10 NES games, and then I did one after Happy Console Gamer, and it opened up another door where I was like, you know what, I'm gonna start doing that. I'm gonna start talking about some other things, and where I don't have to spend as much money. And so I started getting away a little bit. I was like, oh, okay, I could put this video out and kind of get away with not really talking about what I bought this week. And so it would be like a 1-2 week gap, and then it was starting to become a 3 week gap, and then I started seeing some people doing a monthly video, and I said, oh, okay, I'm gonna start doing monthly videos, and I started doing those probably about a couple years ago, and then I just started getting away from it, where I started just doing all kinds of stuff, and I tried to incorporate podcasts. It's just the timing really. So it just really got away from me. So then I said, let me just start doing some live streams, and I was starting to do those, do a little bit of live stream, do a little bit of vlogs, do a little bit of hypothetical questions and stuff like that, video response, shout out stuff. So I just started doing all kinds of stuff to kind of keep me all over the place. I would rather be all over the place than in one lane, because it just wasn't working for me to keep doing it that way, because I would immediately lose interest. But yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's how I approach my content. I mean, like, I have six channels currently, and I upload like every day, and I'm always trying to be different in every video, or else I'll get bored, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I do vlogs all the time on my channel, Outlaws Graveyard Shift. I always pose different questions that interest me, and that are kind of different than what everyone else is talking about. And then on this channel, like, I'm scripting stuff now, so every scripted video, I always try to look at the game or the show that I'm talking about at a different angle. Like, let's talk about why the directing works in this episode of this show, why, or, let's talk about the themes of this show, why does this theme make me feel the way it feels, or, I played this game for the first level and I hated it, let me tell you my experience about it. So, I'm always trying to look at things with a different angle, or try to have an interesting idea, rather than just trying to copy the same thing that I did before, because to me that's really boring to make. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can get that. I can understand that for sure. Because I'm the same way, trying to figure out everything. So, it's that is the complex part of dealing with video game, or dealing with I should just say YouTube channel, just dealing with a YouTube channel in general, and more so, people don't even know all the stuff. It's like, it's funny to me, because people come to watch your content, but they never truly understand how much work it goes into it. So it's just funny to me. But yeah, huh? All right. Give me a second here. Whatever, dude. But yeah, man. I'm just learning how to get back into the groove of it. I'm looking at some of these channels that you got up here, and I'm like, this is crazy. How many that you got in there?
Yeah, like, I mean, since I have so many different ideas and stuff that I want to do, I kind of never run out. And, I mean, that might sound a bit, like, self-aggrandizing to say, but, I kind of am happy when other people get to an idea that I had, because I'm like, oh, well, I don't have to do this one now. I can get to the 100 other things I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Yeah, and I've seen people do videos that I talked about like a year ago. I'll be like, dang, I did that a long time ago. But it all just comes in full circulation after a while. What was that saying?
Yeah, like, I forgot what I was gonna say. I don't know. Whenever I think about YouTube, I start to lose my train of thought. I don't know. But it's just a really fun thing for me in general. I just like being productive. Uh, because I think the times when I feel the most down is when I'm not like being stimulated by something. So I
Yeah.
try to just get out as many videos as possible because it makes me happy. I feel gratified when I do it. I never like get burnt out or feel like, well, this just ain't for me. I get into that mindset where it's like I want to get out as much stuff as possible because it's just so fun for me. Um,
Hold on.
well, if you got something going on in the background, we can get back on this later.
Do you remember?
Mom made me left.
Oh, okay. No, she ain't. But no, I was gonna say that's the same thing that I was thinking too, as far as the. I think that was the main reason why I did come back, was because of being able to have that creative space. I think it's so hard to tell people everything in one video. It seems like that's the real challenge that you run against, is trying to say, okay, this is all of my thoughts in here. I said, you know what? I'm not going to be opposed to the idea of breaking it down like videos, breaking it down to so many videos and saying a little bit here and there, because ultimately it's my channel, so I can do that. I can say all those things in different, if I want to break it up in different times and periods and say, okay, I'm going to divulge here, I'm going to unlay, that really, like you said, that you hit the nail on the head, is the creative space, and the big thing for me is just a creative outlet. And I have so many things that I want to talk about, and I know that me, with having so many things going on in my head, it's nice to just be able to just post about it and talk about it, and then kind of have your own little community come back and relay information, how they see things. And I think sometimes people, I tell people on my channel, I've told them in videos, I say, you guys are too nice. And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, because you guys, like, y'all kind of pander towards what I like, or what I want. And y'all, it's like you're afraid to say things, and it's like that's opposing. Whereas some people, I got like a few guys that come on there and they just like, I don't even see the point of this video. I hate that game. Like, I could not stand that game, and I respect them more because, you know what, they stop me down and they get my attention. I'm not necessarily looking for somebody to just get into this strong, heated debate. But if you're opposed to something, I want to hear why. Like you're saying, going back to the. But yeah, it's. I think that's the big thing, is that when I don't feel like I'm in that creative space, then I feel like I'm losing a side of me. And that's why I did come back, because the creative outlet, just being able to talk about it and being able to say some things and give my perspective, and because most people thought it was like one person, or it was this person, or it was this, or it was that, as to why I came back. I was like, well, no, it was probably all those things and some other things going on too. It was more than that. It was a lot of things at one time. But the big reason why I stopped the channel was because I felt like at the time I had too much on my plate, and I was trying to go through a different direction, you know, and I had other things that I was trying to get into and take care of. And I said to myself I was just going to let it be, but then I didn't know that this creative spark had been ignited through the channel. And so that's where, you know, so it's like, I said, that's why I told myself, I said, let me keep everything in perspective, put out videos when I want to, not get so caught up with the subscribers / views and stuff like that. Try to strip everything down and not be so centered around being, I'm probably going to start going into scripting eventually because I want to build a certain format for the channel, but I don't want to lose too much of who I am. I just want to, because people say that when they talk to me, I sound more relaxed, but when I'm on the channel, it seems like I'm kind of like stiff. So I said I wanted to lose the stiffness, and it's so weird that the 5 years I was on there, I really never really lost that. That side just kind of always resided there. It never went away. So I said I'm just going to try to work on that. So just getting back to the essence of why I started the channel, why I love the channel, why I do the channel, and have fun with it. And, you know, when I need to take a break, just take a break and not necessarily end the channel because it's probably going to forever be in existence. I see people that have a channel and they only post like once a month or once every 3 months, which is crazy. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's their channel, so they can do whatever the hell they want, you know. It's crazy.
Yeah. It depends. It just depends on, how dedicated you are or, how you feel about YouTube. The approach I take to my videos is less like inspiration based and more discipline based, you know. I treat it more like a quote unquote second job, you know, but it's like a fun quote unquote second job, you know. It's something where, you know, I just want to get out a whole bunch of stuff and express myself on a lot of things, whereas other people, you know, they have times where they stop and they're like, you know, I don't feel like I want to do this month, so I'm going to come back later, you know, or they just put out a video whenever they're inspired and they, you know, they really want to express themselves. So I think it's interesting to see how different people treat their channels, you know, because I don't know.
It is, man. It really is. It is, because I have buddies that have been on YouTube for like 3 years, and just their third year around did they really start just unloading all this content. Like their first year, they probably only put out maybe 10, 15 videos, and then the second year they probably did 20, but then the next year they was dropping videos like on the regular, like weekly. And sometimes they would do 2 videos a week, and I was like, wow. I was like, where have you been at, dude? Because you weren't doing this when you first told me about your channel and asked me, you know, what do I think? Because, you know, a lot of people will ask me, and some of the people I know, they're just solicitors, or some people just spamming and stuff like that. Hey, check out my channel. Like when people start out the first line, that was a great video. Check out my channel. I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, whatever. But yeah, that shit gets on my nerves, man. And I've called people out about it too. You know, I don't necessarily go directly at the person, but I'll just tell people, hey, don't ask me, you know, because I like to be at my own liberty to go check out your content. You know, some people that I'm cool with, I don't mind them saying, hey, can you check out my content? Okay, but people that I don't know you. Don't come on my channel for the first time and then say subscribe or check out my content. I'm like, that's annoying, because it's like, I don't even know you. You ain't even, so that means you're just using me for this time being. And then on top of things, you want people to come back and watch your content. You know, you don't want somebody to just subscribe just to subscribe to your channel, you know, because you asked them to, because it's just a matter of clicking the subscribe button. That's easy. I mean, if that was the case, I would have 10, 15,000 subscribers easily. I mean, because every time people came back and watched my video, I got people that just watch my stuff and they don't even subscribe, which is no big deal because in essence you still get a view out of it. So it's like whatever. I don't mind.
Yeah, it's about who's coming back to the videos.
Yeah, and I got regulars, and like I even my mindset anyway, or the way my brain works, I'm able to keep up with a lot of people that come to my, just because I'm uh, I'm a visual person. So when I see like certain avatars, or I'm already getting a certain feel about how you leave comments, I've already gained a perspective. I've picked up your persona. I've already picked up certain things about your ways and all that automatically. So when those people come back, I'll be like, hey man, and I don't talk to people like subscribers. I talk to the people like people that's watching my content. And I'll be like, hey man, what's up? What's going on? And like, oh yeah. Man, I'm glad to see you back. And like even the fact that I had called myself ending the channel, and I mean I had people that didn't even leave. They just didn't leave. They just didn't look at it like that. They were like, oh, they always held on to the fact, you're coming back, man. I'm not even tripping, man. I'm not worried about you saying all that stuff. I said, well, honestly, this is how serious I was about ending the channel. I sold my video camera. I gotta get another camera, which I'm actually okay with, because the camera I had anyway was starting to go out on me. Like as far as the quality was starting to leave, and it wasn't the same. So actually, I was okay with selling it. I was like, but like you said, and that's another thing I have been thinking about, is trying to change it up, do it different, come up with different styles and all that other stuff, and hit people with different angles and all that, just different things to just talk about or whatever, I guess, for the most part. But yeah, man, it just really, the channel for me just kind of became a weight, an unnecessary weight. And I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't getting into it. I was getting frustrated about the wrong things. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned over the time that I didn't have the channel on or wasn't putting out content was not to become content. I was becoming content because I was getting views on the contentment of the videos that I was putting out. And the audience was content with that. They weren't like bulging or pushing or anything or asking more or different stuff. They were okay with it. But at the same time, I was thinking, okay, this is not bringing in a new audience, because that was my thing. I wanted to bring in a new audience, and I said to myself, I said, well, if I'm going to do that, then I have to change again. I gotta change what I'm doing again on this channel and not do the same thing. It's easy to fall into that hole. It's easy to become almost one-dimensional with the things that you're doing, because you got these people watching. They're coming back to watch your content, but after a while, you start to notice the same amount of views, and you're like, okay, so it's pretty much the same audience. And unless I do some off-topic video, then I get all these random people come and watch. And I was like, okay, so that means I gotta start doing some stuff and just be.
Yeah.
And it's not that you're looking for the views, you're just looking for the audience. Really. So it just becomes one of those things.
Yeah, how about we take a 5-minute break here or something, because I gotta go check something around the house.
Okay.
So to riff off the past question, if you could tomorrow, if you could have 10. So what I was saying was, if tomorrow you could just get $10,000 off your channel every month, would you do it as a job?
Um, full, yeah, like, or my main job, yeah, I would, because then that would be a free range of creative outlet. You know, especially considering the fact that I know that I've built a certain platform at this point where I know that, I'm going to generate. Like some people I see, I watch their content on a regular, and I know that in the background they don't necessarily have to put out a video every week because they've built that certain viewership and they got this certain audience at this point where they can generate it. So yeah, I think for me it would be nice, especially if I had the right, because the big thing is it always goes down to making sure that I can take care of the household financially. And if I had that, if I was making that kind of money a month, that would be great, because then I could just do this and not worry about anything else. Now, I know there are downsides to having it as your full-time job, of course, because you eventually will get to a point where you will have to take a break. And I think for me, I thought taking a break was like a sign of just like quitting or whatever, or being done. And really, you just need to take a break and it's okay. Now that people were more vocal about, they were like, yeah, man, like if you just need a video once every 2 weeks, we're okay with that, or once a week or once a month, it's okay. It's like just as long as you're putting out content, it's like, so that you start to build a certain fan base. But yeah, uh, having it as a full-time job would be awesome. I wouldn't have to, because for me, it's just, it would be a lightweight, or a heavy load lifted off your head, because then you know that the house is taken care of. Because making $10,000 a month, that's 110 or 120 a year. That's before taxes. So just clearing that out alone, I don't even need that much to be at home, but that would just double everything and make things that much comfortable, more easier. Then you're more laid back because that's your, when you see, I've been in the work field since I was 16. I'm 38 now, so 20 plus years of working, and to know that I'm my own man, I have my own money, I have my own time to dive into doing what I love and talk about what I love, and just making sure I put out good content, or at least decent content, and it's going to do well, or it's going to basically generate enough views. Because one thing I learned too was, like, even though I wasn't putting out any content, I was still generating views every month. I was getting 1,500 to 2,000 views a month when I was putting out content. So it was just like, so even your backlog is still being watched. So you just think about it in perspective, or retrospectively, that a lot of these channels, they get a lot of views off of their old stuff. And their new stuff is just now it's in its infancy. So it's just now starting out. And it's crazy. I never thought about it that I would start building a certain audience and like that, but I don't know, just keep everything in check. I said, man, I'm just going to enjoy the ride and not get too hung up on all these other variables that can get in the way, like the views and subscribers, and not just having fun with the channel. It's nice to have a certain audience, because a lot of people start coming to me and they're like, man, look, I'm just trying to get to 1,000. I said, man, I didn't even think I was going to get to 1,000. But the big shout outs definitely helped out. Putting out content that kind of sent a shock through YouTube, because people that I didn't think was watching my channel. I was like, whoa. I said, wow, this guy's been watching, or this girl's been watching it. And I was like, wow, I didn't. So really, just because it's a view, don't think it's just somebody who doesn't have a channel. It's probably somebody that does have a channel. And then on top of it, there may be somebody who has a pretty big channel. So that just adds a whole new layer to it. But yeah, I thought about that, and I think that's part of it that kind of got me motivated. But I also have to be realistic about my position of where I'm at on YouTube. Like, if I think sometimes people put a timer on it. Like, if you're meant to succeed in YouTube world, then you should already be at this amount already, X amount. And so we start putting that out there. But I've seen people, prime example, this dude that I saw on YouTube a couple weeks ago, and I actually subscribed to his channel. It was through Casey Neistat. He's a vlogger. And he saw this one guy's channel. It only had 600 subscribers. And he's a paraplegic. And he was reaching out to Casey because Casey was giving away these shoes that automatically lace up. And, he was just like, tell me a reason why you think you deserve these shoes. Because he said he was just going to give them away anyway. He would be more than happy to ship them to you for free and all that. And this guy said, I'm a paraplegic. And his C3 and C4 bone in his vertebrae is basically ruptured or whatever. And so he that's what left him paralyzed. And he said it would make it so easy for him if he had those shoes that automatically lace up. He said, these are shoes that can last me for years and years. He said, because I don't walk. So he said, I could have these for another 10, 15 years. And Casey loved the video so much, he sent his audience to this guy's channel. So this guy went from 600 subscribers to 40,000 in one day. And those people went back and watched all his content. So he had videos that were probably doing 100 views to doing 5,000 to 10,000 views. And this is all in one day. He's like, it was just crazy. And he even had people that was like, man, why you never told me you had a channel? It's just, so, I don't know, man. And I've gotten shout outs on big channels before, and I've picked up a couple hundred views here and there, and or 100 subscribers here and there. But a lot of it's been work. It's been work, man, and I appreciate it. Like they say, enjoy the ride while you get to your destiny. Because if you don't, it'll make you lose out and not have fun along the way. So you have to enjoy everything, the good and the bad. Because there was a point where it was like 3 years ago. Well, yeah, it was 3 years ago. Or 3.5. Well, 2.5 years ago. I was stuck at 700 subscribers for almost a year. It was like 8 months. I was at 700 subscribers, and it was just like the craziest thing. I was like, man, what is going on? And it was just this weird space that I was in, and nothing was working. I was putting content on a regular, and it just was one of those things where I was just in limbo and just rode with it. I just was like, this is crazy, and I wish this would work out a little bit better than this. Because really, for me, it was just about the audience. Just building a big audience. That's all I really wanted. And, the money, if that happens, that's just a plus. The audience is really what I care about. It's like, and I hear people, this let me know that I wasn't warped or crazy or anything, because people even on a much, much higher level than me, they have the same thought process. They're like, man, I wish I had more viewers. I wish I had more views. And it's like, dude, you're generating 5,000 to 10,000 views a video. I know dudes that I watch on a regular generate 1 million views a video. And it's like, what are you talking about, dude? This one guy, he basically just, about 5, 6 months ago, he he switched from doing YouTube part-time to doing YouTube full-time. He's got over 80,000 subscribers, but he's probably doing, I think he said about 100,000 views a month easily. That's not really said it. Once you start, when you get in that bracket of generating on a regular 100,000 views, you pretty much can live off that income because you're gonna bring in about 5,000. So, and as long as you keep everything, as long as you keep everything in control, you can live off that. $5,000 a month. That's not that bad. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
I think a lot of the time the way smaller channels who can't get a lot of subscribers because they do a certain kind of content, when they start up a Patreon, if their viewers are dedicated enough, like that they're willing to actually donate to see that content, they start doing it as a job. Like one channel that I follow, Endless Jess, he only has 11,000 subscribers on his main account, but he makes like thousands of dollars on Patreon, and it's just because his viewers are so dedicated to the content he makes.
That's crazy. That is crazy. And I thought about it, and I'm not even opposed to the idea, and I don't have no bones about doing it. I never really thought about it like until last year when one of my buddies that I've done a podcast with before, he came to me and he said, man, you should do a Patreon. And I was like, why? It's like, man, it's just, he said, it just makes things that much easier for you. And, he just kind of talked about it a little bit. He scraped it a little bit and then he just kind of got out. He bounced out of that subject real quick. But I know, I'll say this, I know I have loyal people that watch the content that I put out, because the audio on that last video was terrible, but people watched it. They watched it anyway. Like my mobile live stream the audio was way better than the last video, just because I'm working on getting a microphone. I'm just going to probably just work with having a microphone for the time being, because I don't really want to jump into the camera thing again. Not right now. Like I'm not really, because I did that before. I already did that. And I want to, like I was telling you earlier, I want to kind of take a different perspective or a different mindset and be in a different place, how I open up the video, how I talk through the video, how I sound, just how I look, just in essence and all that other stuff. But I've seen people take off on their channel, man, and they started, but they had to be hard with it, like continue to put out stuff and I don't know, man. When I see some people, they really, really work at their channel like it's a job, and I'm like, ooh, that overwhelms me. Like the Gibbs 24, she got a website. At this point, she's almost at 14,000, and she started her channel over. But at this point now, I know she's making a steady extra income. Like I know she works full time, but she has a certain schedule that she sticks to with her channel too, as far as the content she puts out. She puts out about 2 videos a week at least. But she does it in a steady flow. She's probably got her content down. She's got her editing down to a T or whatever. And she's like, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. This is how I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to do this. And put it all out. And I'm like, wow. But yeah, now she's at the point. And she even told me one time, and it was pretty cool that she even mentioned this. Because her channel, to me, her channel's gotten bigger. Like her views are bigger than her actual viewers that says that subscribe to her channel. Like her channel is doing numbers now. It's doing regular numbers. But she said you were like one of the first people that even subscribed to my channel when I came back. Because she had a channel and she left for like a year or 2 years and then she came back. And then she just slowly started building up. I think the last quarter of last year, she hit 10K. And most people, when they hit 10K, that's when your channel really starts taking off. It just starts doing like hers. After that, I think around probably about September, I think it was. I know it had to be the last quarter of last year she hit 10K, and then this last month, this last month and a half, she probably picked up 1,000 subscribers. Like, no kidding type numbers. Because she started getting into the live stream and people would like to correspond with you. And I found like, for me, it's just a weird time as far as being able to find the right time. Because most of my buddies are from the UK. So a lot of those guys are like, dang, I missed it. They'll be waking up the next day and they're like, dang, Spill, I missed it. And I'm like, yeah, because I do mine randomly. I don't do mine with a schedule. Like when I do a live stream or I do a gameplay / live stream, I don't really put no schedule on it. Say, okay, I'm going to do one today. You know, I'm just doing it because they're fun. They're actually fun. I actually really enjoy doing those. And because it's less editing, it's less time that has to go into it. I don't really have to do any editing. It's just free balling, and that makes it easy.
Whenever I do my Let's Play videos, I always try to just sit down and play the game and then talk, and then, you know, I put the footage over the audio in Sony Vegas and then I just release it. There's no more beyond that, and it just feels kind of good. It's like, yeah, I got to share this game with everyone else, and you don't really think about it beyond that.
Yeah. And that's all I do. I just put it out there, and it's like cool. I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it, and see my headset microphone is a lot better, but I already got my eyes set on this one microphone, and I was like, I'll just probably trade in some stuff. I don't like spending nothing on the equipment, you know, but I am thinking about Patreon, but I said, let me get everything squared away first. Like get the sound and stuff sounding better before I ask for money. Because I don't want to think, oh, you're asking us for money and you're putting out this crap right now. Because in my head, it's like, the video quality is good. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, the video quality is good, but the audio, it turned out monsters. I was like, oh, it was horrendous. And I was like, man, I didn't even know it was that bad. Until I tried to turn my volume up like max, and it sounded like somebody was choking me in my throat or something. And I was like, oh, nah. And yeah, that shit is not good. It's not a good look, man, because to go from, my 3 videos ago, when I was on, you got audio sounding like this, and then you got audio sounding like this. It's like, it's not even hard to compare. It's night and day. It's like, okay, we got to do something about this. So, because I tried to record using my headset to see if the sound was just slightly better. It wasn't that much better. But, yeah, man, it would be nice. It would be nice, because then I wouldn't have to think about work. I could just come up with random topics, and I know that what I'm going to put out is going to generate so many views automatically. Like, the bar is here, but anything beyond the bar is just going to be extra. Like, I still have videos that do well that I didn't even think was going to do well. Like, I did a video response about the GameStop Dollar Challenge. The original person that put it out, they only did like 100 views or something like that, and then 200 views, and then mine did 1,000. it just started coming up and up, and most of my videos. That's why I don't get so wrapped up in how it does initially. I mean, it just does crazy numbers on that first day, but I don't get too wrapped up in, because most of my videos average about 100 to 200 views or whatever. And now I did find out something, and it was kind of interesting. The restricted mode, I once I heard about it this week. I didn't even know about it. I heard about it this week, so I said, well, let me do a test. I'm gonna put, because I have my additional channel, and so I said, let me take that channel and look at my channel with restricted mode on and restricted mode off. And oh my God, a lot of my last 5, 6, 7 videos were gone. And I was like, man, that makes sense, because a lot of those views started to drop off. And I was like, why are these views dropping off so hard? Like, I was getting consistency, and I was used to the consistency of my channel of views, and they just started teetering out. And I was like, what in the hell is going on? So the retro mode revealed, or restricted mode revealed, a lot of my videos were being hidden unless you just went and randomly searched out my channel, or you didn't have restricted mode on, and if you went and looked for my content, then you would find it. But you had to look for it to find it. Other than that, it was hidden. The videos were hidden. Because I know I got some younger viewers that watch my content, and if they got restricted mode or parental controls on there, it's going to block a lot of their content. Now, I have seen some channels where they don't have no videos on their playlist, and they're wondering, why the views drop? Well, that was the thing. YouTube just released a statement this week apologizing, because a lot of the LGBTQ community, they started complaining because they were saying a lot of their stuff was being blocked because of the type of videos that they put out, but none of it was explicit, or none of it was overly sexual or anything like that. They were just talking about coming out. Well, those videos got blocked and hidden. But yeah, it was just interesting. I had from my naked eye, I saw at least 10 videos on the first page that were gone. They were gone. I was like, whoa. I said, okay, so this is what happened. A lot of my videos just got restricted. I didn't even know it. Because YouTube is trying to go towards, I don't know, some weird direction. And what's funny is that some of the YouTube videos that I did put out, they didn't get restricted. And I don't know if it was because of profanity, I don't even know. But it was just weird to see that. It was enlightening though. I was like, oh, that's why the views sucked on this video.
It's
But
if you put certain
all in all,
tags,
whatever.
if you put certain tags on the video, that'll usually get it blocked.
Yep. Learning that too.
Like on one of my channels, I have this series called Logan's Cremation Furnace. Now, that show is not about like anything explicit or violent or anything. It's just like a diary style show where I guess I talk about like problems, and then after I do the show, I go out and try to resolve those problems. So symbolically, I'm putting the problems in the cremation furnace, So I make that podcast, and ever since I uploaded any episodes of it, they always get demonetized and restricted, because it has like cremation in it, so it thinks that the show is going to be violent when really it's not. I'm just talking about regular life stuff.
Yeah, that's why some of the, like you were saying earlier, or about 20-something minutes ago, that's why some of the people have been leaning towards Patreon. So then that way, they're still able to put content out, but they got people that's paying them to put content out because they already know. Like this one YouTuber, I watch her. She's, she kind of, uh, she she's left wing. She's kind of and she has her own political views and they're very strong and opinionated or whatever. Um, Pretty much all her stuff was just getting blocked, and to the point where well, it wasn't blocked off the channel, but off her channel, but they were they were basically blocked. They were demonetizing her videos. So she just had to go full blown and just go ahead and do it and just say, okay, look, matter of fact, she don't even use Patreon because she said she didn't like using Patreon. And this was interesting. I never even thought about it until she mentioned this. Matter of fact, I think, the name of her channel is called Tree of Logic. She kind of goes into everything, politics, religion, and all kinds of stuff, and gives her own perspective about it. And just even the culture and the world and all that. And she don't even use Patreon. She has the viewers go to her website and they can give a monthly fee if they want to, or a weekly, or whatever they want to sign up for. But she said she don't like Patreon because Patreon shows how much you make. And she was like, she wasn't cool with telling that kind of information. And to a degree, I can understand that because then some people will feel compelled not to give you money because they're thinking, oh, he's bringing in $5K a month. Or like you were saying, 10K, he's bringing in 10K a month. He don't need me to donate to his channel. Like, well, now I'm probably, like you said, now if I'm working from home, I'm accumulating different expenses. Because I did, after she mentioned that, I started going to people's Patreon and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I said, oh, like one of the people I watch, she used to be on this show called SourceFed, and her name is Meg Turney, and she does cosplay, she does all kinds of stuff, modeling and everything, and I looked on her Patreon, and it was ridiculous. It was like she built a pretty good base of people. I think she got like 300,000 subscribers, and they're pretty. She get a pretty round amount of views, in basically around the same place. But she finally took. She just now. I think she took her numbers off, but it used to be, where's she at? I don't think she got it up anymore. She used to. I think they finally figured out that people were getting upset about that, and they took it off. But hers now, it just says 876 Patreon. But she's getting about $15,000 a month, $15,000 to $20,000 a month. But she said the thing is, ooh, out of 876 people. So those people are getting pretty good dimes on that, man. That's a lot of money. 15. So I was like, okay. Matter of fact, I think it's like it's about 15 to 20,000 because she's making about 150, and that's just off Patreon. This is not from her modeling. This is not from her cosplay. Because she's independent. She does all the stuff out of her own pocket. So that's another thing she has to do. She has to account for traveling expenses and all the other stuff. Because she's paying all that, unless that's added in with the contract whenever she signs with somebody. Or, that's agreed upon that they're going to take care of that. But other than that, she pays out of her pocket. But I was like, damn, 15,000 to 20,000 a month? That's crazy. But yeah, I'm seriously going to consider that because, for me, it would be allowing me to continue to do what I love without the stress of it hitting the household. Like I'm going to a retro fest. I'm going to a retro convention this weekend. It's retro fest. I've been going every year for the last 4 years or whatever. They actually skipped a year because he couldn't get the venue. He was trying to get the venue or whatever. So it went year 1, year 2, then it skipped, and then he did year 3 last year, and then year 4 this year, and it's this weekend. But with having that extra in that's just going towards my gaming stuff, and it's not hitting the household income, that'd be great. Because then you would be able to just go all at it, you know. And so if I get that extra, and then I could pay for top of the line equipment because I already have an idea of what I want to do as far as the equipment goes. But I don't want to. The only why it's taking me so long, like it took me a long time to even get that camera. So now now I got to work on getting another camera. But I'm not gonna run out and get another one. There's no demand for it. There's no need for it. I don't have the viewership to where I need to go around and do it. I'm not making no money. I'm getting like $4 or $5 a month or something. I was anyway, but now I'm not even getting that because I wasn't putting no content out. So, but yeah, there's no eager rush or need to go out and do it. But yeah, man, I say to people, man, when you're doing the channel, don't overdo it. Don't, make sure you're doing it because you love doing it. And if that's why because I had buddies who only been on YouTube for a year and they put out 300 videos. And I was like, dude, that's way too much. You're not, if you love it, I said, if your end game is just for the enjoyment, cool. But if your end game is for views, then you're going to have to stop down and look at what you're putting out and don't just put out a video to put out a video. I had buddies who didn't even check the audio and they didn't check the quality. One of my buddies, halfway through his video, the audio went completely out. Or his voice got drowned out because he had the music like at max. So you couldn't hear nothing but the music for the next 5 minutes. And I was like, no. But yeah, all my perspective, man. It's all of what you love to do. And like you pointed out something. Everybody does their channel different. Some of us might put out some of the same content, but everybody does their channel different. And the way they approach it. But I do see a little bit of dictatorship type thing, like people try to dictate how you should do it. Now, if you're at a certain plateau on your channel and you're trying to help people, that's one thing. But if it's more like criticism, and it's not coming from a good place, it's more so you just like, well, I don't like when I see videos like this. But that's your prerogative, it's just like, that's how you see it or whatever. So, I don't know. It's just funny to me.
Yeah. Like, on the topic of different video styles, like, I think everyone comes into it with their own voice. And, there was one point where I would, like, try to criticize certain channels for not doing the type of videos that I wanted. Just a few months ago, but over time, I realized everyone has a different voice with their content, and they should, they should act on that voice and do what works for them. And if you're going to give them criticism, it should be on that voice. How well are they doing this thing that they're meant to do, that they're trying to do, rather than, how are they doing this thing that I want them to do that they don't care about?
Yeah, and that's what I started saying to people on. If I even say anything, and that is a hard thing to do because I did find myself doing that, saying, well, this is how I do it. This is how you should do it, but that's not how it works. But I would, if people did ask, I would tell them. I'd be like, hey, You don't have to do a 20-minute video. If you want more, if you're looking for your views to go up, you don't need to do a 20-minute video about one video game, and you're not really keeping a genuine connection with the audience. It's just not. It's not. But if you like your editing, when you did that anime, the one that got flagged or whatever, the way you did that, that was good. It was like, and even one with the Ninja Gaiden video, and see, that's the thing, you have to know what's going to connect with the audience. But the way you edited it, it was like, okay, I could see that. I was like, wow. I like videos that make me go, wow, I wish I could do it like that. Because I do stuff and I put stuff out there, but I find myself feeling like I'm putting way too much time into editing, and so sometimes I'll teeter out of it. And I'll be like, okay, ooh, this is becoming a thing where I'm taking like I think the longest I spent on editing a video was 8 hours. Like I literally spent the day editing, and I was like, nah. And then and of course the video didn't do anything. That's the part that really killed me. Like, so I said, you know what? I'm gonna try to rack up, keep it sweet, keep it tight, and do what I like, and then, that's it. And for a short while, I was doing real, short videos. I was doing some really short videos. I was trying to keep them like 2-3 minutes, and that was it. And I know people that's all they do. They'll do 2-3 minute videos. They don't do the 5, 10. Because I say that realistically, your video, depending on the topic, or depending on the type of video, it should really only be like 7 to 8 minutes. But when you're doing that anime stuff, man, the way you're doing it, it's fine because people love it. They're going to gravitate to that more. It's almost like, I feel like it's more anime people, like people more in the anime than video games. Like the number, it's like people see that and they go crazy. Yeah, I don't know.
I've observed the different communities where there's way less anime channels doing the kind of content that I do. And of course, like, the kind of content that I do is influenced a lot by other anime channels, but, like, there aren't a lot of them, and, there aren't, like, a lot of really good ones. I think in that community, we're experiencing kind of a renaissance right now, because a lot of the big people are telling, like, yes, I want more people to start, and so more and more people are starting, but it's nowhere near as big as the gaming community because, people have always been so scared of copyright or whatever. But I think, like, just this year, there was one anime channel I followed, the Pedantic Romantic. He started in 2016, like late 2016, and he already has 12,000 subscribers or whatever.
So it's just an untapped area, really.
Yeah. It's not anywhere near as oversaturated, I'd say, as the gaming community, to where, like, if you look at discussion channels, there's like 300 happy console gamers, or 300 people trying to be happy console gamer, and then the pickup channels, there are literally thousands of those guys out there. The review guys, there's so many of them. And it's just, with video games, since it's kind of the first thing that made YouTube popular, and it's such a popular medium, that it's kind of hard to break into it now. But, like, with anime, since I've been seeing my channel grow a lot more ever since I started doing that, I've noticed there's a lot less people talking about this. And it's something I absolutely love talking about. So why don't I try doing this and see how people react to my content. Because back when I was doing gaming, I just kind of got sick of it. Because like I would try to do the kind of videos that other people wanted instead of what I wanted to make, and I didn't really know what I wanted to make
Right.
yet. And so I would spend like periods of like 2 months just being burnt out on content because um, I didn't know what to do. I was bored, and I liked the community, but also I was kind of fed up with it at the same time, and I really had no idea what I was doing. So I basically took what I learned from when I was a gaming, or exclusively like a gaming discussion channel, and I said, why don't I take this new angle with anime and with video games, and so I'll talk about both. And ever since I did that,
Yeah.
and I kind of evolved my style a bit, I've been a lot more happy with the content I'm making, and now, like, I upload a video on the main channel like every week, sometimes 3 a week, depending on how much I'm writing. So yeah, I've been having so much more fun ever since I kind of found my own niche to work in.
That's the thing. That's the challenge right there. Not to get caught in other people's content, because either you can be wowed or amazed by the content that they put out, and you see the response that they get, and this is me speaking from my own situation, is that I learned that you have to do what, when you're like, really, it's just finding your own place. And yeah, that's why I did start breaking away from the whole pickup video type of thing, because that became more of a stigma. It wasn't. It was becoming a detriment to my channel, and it was like, okay, that was just becoming the thing to do. And like you said, you, for every 100 of those channels that go away, another 100 comes back the next week of doing the same thing. So that's why those, and I try to tell those guys, that's like, some of those people that do kind of just drop, they'll kind of drop a word in, and they're like, why is it so hard to break ground? And I'll tell them. That's when I feel like, okay, let me go, because I'm a straightforward kind of guy, and it's hard for me not to speak on things. So I'll just tell them, I'll say, hey, look, this was the yesteryear. You're doing the yesteryear, and you got, like you say, and what I do, a lot of people don't do this, but what I do is I go through people's recommended channels, and channels that they put on their own page that they recommend to other people. So I go to those channels and I see what content they're putting out. Then I go to their channels and see what content those people they're recommending is putting out. And when I see them all in the same melting pot, as far as how many people are actually watching their content, how many views they're generating, it's like, because y'all all are doing the same thing. Nobody's separating themselves. Like I feel like I've kind of made a certain position for myself. Now I've kind of stood out a little bit. At first, I used to be a little weird about doing vlogs about video games and doing, hypothetical questions and stuff like that. And now I'm starting to see some people starting to do that, like more so, like even more than they were before. They're kind of changing, putting out because they're realizing those people are, a lot of people ain't watching that stuff no more. They're not really watching that stuff no more. And I'm like, I would even look at them, I'm like, I don't see you doing it forever. Now the people that are big, they can do all kinds of stuff because you've done your work, you put your work in. So yeah, I think that's the challenge, is not getting so caught up in what other people are doing that's doing well, and just do your own thing and do it well. Finding your own place, that was definitely, I probably didn't feel comfortable until about 2 years in, where I felt like, okay, starting to find my own position. About 2.5 years in, around, yeah, about 2.5, I was like, okay, I found my place where I want to do and stuff like that. But trying to get me to do different stuff, coming up with different ideas, that's always a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind taking influence from other people as long as you don't like outright, you know, try to be an unabashed knockoff of them. And you have to take from a lot of different places and mix them together, kind of. Because with my content, like,
Yeah,
I'll watch a certain video and then I'll be like, I really love this video, but if I try to be like this guy, then it's just not going to be me and it's not going to come out right. So I think, well, what
yeah,
element of this can I take to improve my content and make it more interesting? And then I seek to tweak that to be more like myself. And I do this with the hundreds of channels that I watch and I think are inspiring, and then I try to take, you know, the best elements that I think are applicable to me and then kind of put them in a melting pot. And then from then
yeah,
on, I use little bits of those in all of my videos.
yeah. I do the same. I get inspired, because there are people that inspire me in a good way, and it's like, ooh, I like that. It's really thoughtful for me. So I was like, okay, I like that. I'm gonna actually dive in a little bit more and go from there. Yeah, it's just fun to me. I just
Mm.
I feel bad for some of the new guys that are like really wanting to just go all out with the channels, and they really are looking for results. And it's like you have to understand you are in your lane right now, and that's another thing that I learned too. Is not to get so caught up with how fast channels are growing in comparison to mine. Like, this is my channel, this is my lane. That's a hard thing to do too, because you got people that I have people that started and they they start that year before they started a year after you're probably on your fourth year. Their first year they're doing 5,000 subs, and they're not happy with that. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you know how long it took me to get to 1,000? It took me like 3 years to get to 1,000. Oh no, 4 years. I think it was like three. I can't remember, three something to get to 1,000. I'm like, and I think I picked up three something last year, and I'm like, what? I was like, get out of here! Like, please stop killing me. But they'll be like, yeah, I just, I'm not even understanding. Like, I'm just about to hit 100,000 views on my channel. I have dudes that I know did that off of like almost two of their videos, because the videos just sparked when they did something. It was just one of those videos that just ended up being, they just got clicked a lot, man, and it just happened. And it was a how-to video. One of them was a how-to video that did like 70,000 views. The guy didn't even, he don't even have a channel of that magnitude. He had like, at the time, he barely had 1,000 views or 1,000 subs. He was like, he's already at like a 500,000 views on his channel. But some of his videos, they correlate with a certain amount of people, and they just, oh, they feel compelled to watch it. And they'll watch it. So it's just,
Yeah.
you never know. It just happens, and it's weird. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, like with certain topics, it's more likely for certain people to click on them. Like, I think a week or two ago, I did this video, Best Anime of 2016, Stella no Maho. And this was a show that no one talked about. Like, I was the only one who really cared about the show, um, and I thought it was the best show of 2016. So I did this video kind of saying why, and that video got 1,000 views in the first day. You know,
Yeah.
and I think the reason why so many people clicked on it was because it was kind of a controversial opinion. You know, like that video got 9 dislikes or something. So I think a lot of people really disagreed with it, so they would come on the video just to dislike it. But there were some other people who clicked on the video and they might have been like, who's this guy who likes this show? I never heard of this. And then they click on it, and they're like, wow, this guy's making a really good point. And, you know, I gained a lot of subscribers off that video. So, certain things you will be able to kind of figure out. Like, maybe this will get me some views if I talk about this brand new show that just came out yesterday, you know. Or I talk about something episodically. Like, every time I've talked about something episodically, it's always netted me like 1,000 views. So, with certain things that are trending, people are more likely to click on it. But I don't want to do just trending things for the sake of getting viewers, because I gotta have fun too. So there are gonna be certain videos where it's like how to build a new computer, and that's useful to a lot of people, and it'll be useful for a long time. So a bunch of people click on this video, and it'll stay in circulation for a long time, because this is something everyone needs, rather than just this is what the flavor of the week is. And to have that balance between evergreen content and trending content, I think is really important to channel growth.
Man, and then videos that you could have gone really, really stripped down basic with, those videos blow up. And having a trendy video or video do really well on views, especially on our level, it's unpredictable. I had my number 2 video with the most views for probably almost 3 years was how video games saved my life. Then all of a sudden, these other videos that I did, they were very basic, like my G code. That video last had 3,000 views, like 1,000 views. Started and started. It was. I actually did almost 2,000 views last year. It was like maybe a few hundred or 300 for the longest time, and it wasn't even moving at all. And then all of a sudden, I just started. I was like, I looked at my view count one day, and I was like, where did all these views come from? And then, you know, of course, the first thing you do is you check your recent view videos, and it wasn't that. My views come from old content most of the time. Like, I just did a basic video that said, what game should I pick for the PS4? And this was when I was just getting my PS4 in 2008. Like, what? Okay. And like an inside of like 1,000 YouTube famous, did 1,000. It's like, I even did a review of Rogue Galaxy, because it was like one of my favorite RPGs. Well, it ended up being one of my favorite RPGs. And that thing blew up, and it did like 1,000 views. It started off small. I was like, oh, okay. A few hundred people watching it. Like, oh, this is interesting, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, it just takes, man, I'm telling you, it's just, I guess it just goes to say it's just unpredictable. Stuff is unpredictable. And just because videos on your channel doesn't mean people aren't still watching it. They're still watching. And some of my videos started off really slow. Like, they were just dragging. And then they just started, you know, like, one of the this Gen Tux, and it was like,
The call dropped. Okay, so this is the part where Lifespiller just cut out of nowhere. We were in the call, and then all of a sudden the sound just cut off. So that's the end of the podcast, I guess. It was a really interesting discussion. I'm glad he came on. Yeah, it was fun to do, despite the myriad of technical difficulties I was having throughout that recording, but it was a great conversation, and thank you all for listening.